I'm gonna be honest and upfront about this. Some of the shows on this list did not come out in 2020 specifically. In actuality, the title should be more like the best shows that I watched in 2020 that did not exclusively come out this year, but that's a mouthful. But in my defense, it's been a very weird year, COVID and quarantine, and some of the shows on my list actually got me through quarantine, and I wanted to highlight them, even though, that doesn't actually hold up with the 2020 thing. Also, the vast majority of them did come out this year, so yeah, let's just get into it. In a world of vapid remakes, adaptations, and remixes, Watchmen is a godsend. It builds on the original material by Alan Moore in good and unexpected ways. It is refreshing in the way it approaches storytelling, meticulous in its exploration of various themes, and just visually stunning. Not only are the characters amazing, but so much work is also put into exploring the history of racism in America, the inherited trauma of racism, the police state, the moral complexity of vigilantism, and institutionalized violence. It's action-packed, thought-provoking, and deserving of all the awards it has received so far. Next, Avatar: The Last Airbender. Rewatching this show brought back so many memories from my youth, and I feel like for many people that was probably the case too. Besides nostalgia, Avatar: The Last Airbender still holds up very well. I'm surprised at the more adult elements explored in this quote-unquote kids TV show. Things like the consequences of war, genocide, imperialism, colonialism, and questions about fate and free will are explored throughout the show in a nuanced and thoughtful way. The series still has its fun moments, and the narrative itself is well put together. Next, Harley Quinn, and this is more of an adult animated TV series that pokes fun at the DC universe and superhero stories in general. But in many ways, it's also a character study about Harley Quinn trying to reclaim her agency after suffering an abusive relationship with the Joker. That duality of humor and heartfelt character moments is what makes this show so special. While the jokes don't always land, when serious issues are touched on, it manages to surprise every time. And probably in my top 3 favorite shows of the year, I may destroy you. I went into this show not knowing what to expect. Much of this show explores the trauma of sexual assault and what life is like being a survivor. It does this in such a thoughtful way while adding a bit of dark humor to what is clearly a very serious issue. It is difficult to convey the nuanced conversations this show has about sexual assault, consent, and even rape in a few words. While this is a constant focal point of the show, it manages to also be about so many other things. It's a coming-of-age story set in London. It's about endearing friendships and what life is like for creatives in the modern world. I May Destroy You is hard to categorize in one box, and that is what makes it so brilliant. Next, Dark. A time travel story done right, in my opinion. Dark is a German sci-fi family drama about a missing boy that leads to some crazy truths being uncovered. The show has a lot of twists and turns that are sure to confuse you, but putting together pieces is part of the appeal. You would definitely have to bust out a family tree for this one, and it's available online if you want to watch the show while looking at it. Overall, the show does a good job of expanding the scope of the story, giving you clues and delivering a conclusion that is oddly satisfying for a concept that can get really dicey really quickly. Up next, P-Valley. Strip clubs are a familiar setting in entertainment at this point, but rarely is it ever the focus. P-Valley tells the story of a young woman who escapes from tragedy, working in the pink under the moniker Autumn Fall. A lot happens within the first 8 episodes, and it is very interesting and thoughtful. In search of a new comedy drama, look no further than Ramy. And this is also one of the top 3 shows that I watched this year. This series focuses on the trials and tribulations of Ramy Hassan and his quest to live a more spiritual life. Where the show really shines, in my opinion, is when entire episodes are devoted to one of Ramy's family members, showing the idiosyncrasies of a Muslim family living in New Jersey. I definitely laughed a lot watching this show and also related to it in a lot of ways, but there was also plenty of dark and somber moments that really got me thinking, unlike any other show that I've watched. So I highly recommend it if you're looking for something like that. I think so much has been sad about this show already, but it's still one of my favorites and I've already did my whole spiel on it. So if you want to check that out and have your ears simultaneously blown out, check that out. And it's The Mandalorian. And the common criticism that it's fan servicey doesn't land with me, simply because narratively speaking, all the characters that appear like Boba, Ahsoka, and all of them, they're there for a reason. Like, it's justified and it actually makes sense. Even the Luke part makes sense. And I think if the criticism was all of these characters that appear in the show are just there to set up, other Star Wars shows, I think that's valid. But the thing is, it's kind of the reverse of what Marvel did. Instead of having all the different Star Wars shows first and then having all the characters appear in one standalone show, they had them appear in one show first and then branched out to different shows. So it's not really something that bothers me, but still. Last but certainly not least, and I think this is going to be an unexpected addition, and it's The Great British Baking Show. Look, competitive baking, a dash of witty British humor, and gorgeously decorated baked goods. I mean, what more could you ask for? And during quarantine, I really enjoyed this show because I just got tired of watching certain things, and this was a very good palate cleanser for me whenever I was watching heavier themed type things. Now, for some honorable mentions. The Boys. Season 1 and Season 2. I watched both this year, and man, what a show. What a show. I also watched Euphoria. Also a very solid show. Lovecraft Country. And that ending was sad. I didn't like all the episodes. I think some episodes were stronger than others. Still a very decent show. All the little things in this show, I think, make it very good. And last but not least, this is also one that didn't come out in 2020, but it's Baylon Berlin. Now, I was assigned this show to watch for a course that I did, and this show is set during the Weimar Republic, and it's a hard-boiled detective noir kind of show. Pretty interesting. Check it out. I was also going to include Chappelle's Show on this list, but it's being pulled from streaming services. So yeah, that is my list of favorite shows that I watched in 2020. If you like some of them, fine, cool.